Hello, good evening, Wednesday evening. Welcome to North West Tonight with Roger Johnson, and thank you for being with us this evening. Our top story. Police and fraud investigators make arrests over an alleged £140 million fraud involving a Liverpool-based hotel group. Today's operation came 3 weeks after the Signature Living Group went bankrupt. Also tonight, why LGBT veterans like Joe fear that they'll be dead before the government pays the compensation they're owed. Saving the sunflowers, a Cumbrian castle's secret wartime role, protecting some of the world's greatest art. And the Lancashire lottery winners who hit the £62 million jackpot but thought it was a wind-up.
I said to her, "Can you prove to me that you're not scamming me?" And she went, "No, I can't, no."
And while it's been a thoroughly wet day, we saw that rain clearing away and we had some sunny spells developing into this afternoon. There'll be some sunshine around tomorrow as well, but it will turn cooler. I'll have all the details at the end of the programme.
The Serious Fraud Office has raided addresses in Merseyside and Greater Manchester today as part of an investigation into an alleged £140 million property fraud. It involves the Liverpool-based property company Signature Living, which was behind major hotel development projects in Liverpool and in other UK cities. Andy Gill has this report.
Investigators from the Serious Fraud Office, the SFO, at a home in Lee in Greater Manchester early this morning. They also raided 2 properties in Merseyside. 4 people have been arrested. The SFO says the investigation centres on a property company called the Signature Group, which used to own high-profile properties in Liverpool like the Shankly Hotel, which is now under new ownership and management. It also owned the Titanic-themed James Street Hotel, as well as other properties around the UK. The SFO says more than 1,000 investors put money into the firm. It went into administration in 2020 with losses of £140 million.
The investors loaned money to Signature Group and acquired purchase hotel rooms, apartments, all these office spaces, and in return were promised returns of between 8 and 15%. The group collapsed in April 2020 and left people up and down the country out of pocket and buildings in our city centres derelict.
On the Company's House website, a director of the Signature Group is listed as Lawrence Kenwright. He's had a high profile as a property developer and as someone who set up a centre for the homeless in Liverpool. He was declared bankrupt earlier this year. The BBC has approached Mr Kenwright for comment. One observer of the Liverpool property market says the company was successful in the 2010s.
They would fund the projects by selling off individual rooms within these hotels to investors with the promise of a return on investment, which was better than what a bank could provide. And obviously at that time, you have to remember, we were coming at the back of the financial crash, so that was quite attractive to some investors.
More than 50 investigators from the Serious Fraud Office have been involved in today's raids. They include experts in the recovery of information from computers, mobile phones and other digital devices. The SFO has not named the people arrested today. They're to be questioned at police stations in the northwest. Andy Gill, BBC North West Tonight.
Now, LGBT veterans who were thrown out of the military for their sexuality say that they're worried that they won't live to see the compensation promised to them by the government. It was illegal to be gay in the British military until the year 2000. And last year, an independent report recommended payments for those who were investigated, dismissed and sometimes even imprisoned for their sexuality. Well, so far, nothing's happened. And Josh Parry has been speaking to 2 North West veterans for whom time is of the essence.
I've offered my life for my country, and that's the way they treated us.
Joe Uzalis is no stranger to battles. In the Royal Navy, he fought in the Falklands War.
Came in with a huge pair of scissors and said, "Sorry, mate, I need your medal to just cut it off my tunic."
When his medals were taken away because of his sexuality, he battled the establishment to get them back and won. But now he faces a battle of a different kind.
I don't think I'm going to be here much longer. I've got prostate cancer, chest cancer, and I found out yesterday morning from my doctor that it's possibly moving up into the brain now. So I don't think I'll be the same person in a year's time.
When Joe's bosses found out he was bisexual, it was the end of an 18-year naval career. He spent the 30 years since campaigning, first to lift the ban on LGBT people in the military and later to get compensation for those affected. The government will say schemes like this take a while to put in. It's at a time when budgets are very tight. What would you say to that?
The Prime Minister has said they would make recompense, and yet here we are, 6 months later, still waiting for it.
It was illegal to be gay in the British military until the year 2000, when this group of veterans took their fight against the ban to the European Court of Human Rights. In 2023, an independent review recommended 49 ways the government should make reparations, including this apology from the Prime Minister.
The ban on LGBT people serving in our military until the year 2000 was an appalling failure of the British state.
More than 6 months on, and for Lee, an RAF veteran from Liverpool, things aren't moving fast enough.
Today, on behalf of the British state, I apologise.
When are the reparations forthcoming? What's happening? We know nothing at the moment. An apology is just not good enough.
When he first joined the Royal Air Force in 1980, he was still discovering his sexuality.
I didn't really know where I was. I was just turned 18. I thought I might be gay. Maybe if I joined the armed forces, it might get rid of it out of me. Obviously, that's impossible, ridiculous thing to think.
Despite his dismissal, Lee looks back at his time in the forces fondly, but now his thoughts are turning to his ill health.
I would like the government to take into consideration people who are terminally ill. Now, because I'm at this age, I've got a terminal illness, I'll be able to go on my last holiday, I'll be able to pay my bills off. Tomorrow couldn't be quick enough for me. It should be done now.
The government say they have already delivered a number of recommendations from the independent review and that they're working at pace to deliver the rest. For Joe, Lee and hundreds of others, it can't come soon enough. Josh Parry, BBC North West Tonight.
An independent investigation is underway after a man fell to his death when police entered a high-rise flat in Manchester last night. A man in his 40s suffered fatal injuries when he fell from an apartment on Hamerton Road in Collyhurst as officers executed a warrant. Greater Manchester Police has referred itself to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Alan Bates, the former postmaster who brought the post office IT scandal to light, has been nominated for the Freedom of Liverpool, the city in which he was born. A group of MPs suggested him, saying it's in recognition of his resilient and determined campaigning, which of course was the subject of that recent ITV drama. Now, for many people, going out for a run can be tough enough. What you don't need is to have abuse shouted at you, but that's not uncommon for many women. In fact, 500 women runners in Merseyside and Manchester who took part in a recent survey found that 2/3 had experienced abuse, but hardly any of those were reported to the police. As Katie Barnfield reports.
We've got 5K at 27 minutes with Hayley and Martha.
Run the World in Monton is a running club by women, for women. Two of the runners here are Caroline Miles and Rose Broad from the University of Manchester. Their latest research project shows why clubs like this are needed.
We surveyed hundreds of women across Greater Manchester and Merseyside, and it was just really common that they'd experienced abuse or harassment while running, and hardly anybody reported it to the police for a variety of reasons.
For the project, the team surveyed nearly 500 women who run regularly across Greater Manchester and Merseyside. They found almost 70% had experienced some form of harassment or abuse while running, but only 5% had reported anything to the police.
The most common types of things women talked about was being catcalled, being shouted at from cars, being followed, even being spat at or had things thrown at them from vehicles. In the few cases where women do report to the police, it's because those things are much more serious. So the most common form of violence in the police data was sexual violence, but much more women experience things that they don't report.
For many of the women on tonight's run, a need to feel safer was a key reason they joined the club.
So I joined Run the World because I was finding I was only running in the summer when the evenings were lighter.
It's nice to go and do pathways like this and go down the loop line that you wouldn't normally do, that's really nice and quiet. You would never do that at night on your own.
I've been wolf whistled at, heckled, just for wearing, you know, just sportswear really, and it's not very nice and you do feel on edge.
A lot of the women who responded to our survey said that they carried things like keys, rape alarms, air tags, things like that, and were tracked by family members to make themselves feel more safe.
What are you hoping the impact of this research might be?
For women, it's about increasing their confidence in terms of reporting these kinds of incidents, not just thinking that this is completely normal, it's acceptable, it's part of being a woman, but actually the work we'd like to do in the future is to do work with boys and men around the kind of underpinning attitudes that lead to this behaviour.
Rose and Caroline hope their research could inform new police prevention strategies and encourage women who experience abuse to speak up, knowing they are not alone. Katie Barnfield, BBC North West Today in Salford.
Now, it is the Rochdale by-election a week tomorrow. It follows the death of the Labour MP Sir Tony Lloyd, of course, and as you know, it's already been making headlines. Labour have pulled out for reasons I'm sure you know about, and tomorrow some of the candidates will take part in a live debate on BBC Radio Manchester and on Facebook. Ahead of that, our political editor Annabel Tiffin has been to visit two parts of the borough to gauge voters' opinions there.
Rochdale, the birthplace of the cooperative, Gracie Fields and Anna Friel.
I spent 3 years at the Manchester Zoo Primate House. I'm recognising a very primitive language.
And home to these lot.
Yeah, I've lived in Rochdale for 75 years. It's changed a lot since we were like 15, 16-year-old. Yeah. There's a lot of closed, no youth clubs anymore. The kids know what to do.
I live in Rochdale since 2010. It's like 12 years. I saw in Rochdale so many change. It's like new building coming and lots of listed building is destroyed.
It's had a bad press in recent years, but there's so much more to Greater Manchester's northernmost borough. Surrounded by the magnificent South Pennines, Rochdale is made up of a mix of urban and rural areas, a place proud of its industrial past.
It takes a mill girl to see the loose end on a fast-revolving cone, pick it up and knot it, all in a split second.
About 6 miles from Rochdale centre is Littleborough.
There are great little shops, restaurants, cafes, the people are really friendly, and it's brilliant for things like transport links, trams, health services, so it's really got everything that you would want in a very close area with great people.
Littleborough is one of the most desirable places to live in the borough. House prices have risen here more than anywhere else in the country. But of course there are issues here too.
The biggest issue round here is parking. There's nowhere to park. There's nothing for the kids round here to do. There's absolutely nothing. So they're just running around feral, basically, all kids.
According to the latest census, there are about 224,000 people living in the borough of Rochdale. 74% describe themselves as white, 18.5% as Asian. The constituency is in the top 20 most deprived areas of England and has one of the highest rates of child poverty. In the town centre, the biggest issue for those we spoke to was, well, just that, the town centre.
People don't come here anymore. People are not interested. They'd rather go somewhere else.
All the shops are mainly a lot of charity shops and £1 shops and that stuff. So we need a massive change, whoever's going to be the MP.
The death of Sir Tony Lloyd last month triggered this by-election, and it's not been without its twists and turns. Labour has already lost the seat without a vote cast after the party withdrew support from its candidate Azhar Ali over comments he made about Israel. And two former Labour MPs are standing for different parties. But whoever is elected next week will have to deal with issues as extensive and diverse as the constituency itself.
Annabel, with that report, lots of details on the screen here. That debate I mentioned at the start on BBC Radio Manchester, it's tomorrow afternoon, it's 3 o'clock. It will also be streamed on the BBC News website. If you want to ask a question, directly to the candidates, you can. The text number is there. That's quite easy. It's 81333. Start your message with the word Mank. Alternatively, you can email. The address is on the screen. The WhatsApp number is there as well. And don't forget, a list of all the candidates standing in the Rochdale by-election is available on the BBC News website. Now, Muncaster Castle in Cumbria has a long and rich history, but one of its most fascinating stories is, believe it or not, only just coming to light. At the outbreak of World War II, the Tate Gallery in London used the castle as a storeroom for all its greatest treasures, paintings by the likes of Turner, Constable and Van Gogh among them. Ian Haslam has been finding out more about Muncaster's VIP evacuees.
Muncaster Castle has survived in its tranquil setting for centuries, and because of Muncaster Castle, many priceless works of art might have survived this.
German bombers rained fire and high explosive bombs in their most savage attack on London.
The Blitz of 1940 to 41 caused devastation across the capital, including to the Tate Gallery, so it's a good job many of its valuable contents had been moved to Cumbria.
It was a big-scale thing. If you think that 700 to 800 of the nation's greatest pictures were stored here in addition to the castle itself, it kind of does add a very big amount to what must have been a high insurance bill. From the point of view of guarding it and looking after it, it was kept secret, and no one, not even people in this part of the world, maybe a few local people, cottoned on to what was happening.
This week, the story of that was retold in one of the rooms in which the paintings were stored.
Well, the most famous painting, I'm pretty certain, now looking at the list now, would be Van Gogh's Sunflowers. But there were other Van Goghs here as well. There were an enormous number of Turners. I mean, the Tate collection has an enormous number of Turners. And there were Constables, and there were the great works by the pre-Raphaelites, like Rossetti and Millet and so on. And they survived the war because they were brought here.
You're walking through the 3 rooms now that house the collection of 600 to 800 pictures from the Tate and elsewhere that were here in the war.
Peter Frost Pennington's wife's family have lived at the castle for more than 800 years. At the start of the war, Sir John Ramsden was the man in charge and happy to take art over evacuees.
He was overjoyed because it would protect us from the threatened hordes of small children. Fascinating that now we love having small children here and enjoying this place, but Sir John obviously didn't want loads of kids running around the place. Many places like Muncaster were requisitioned for war effort, and to get the Tate Gallery here, he must have been cock-a-hoop.
But concern of coming under attack grew when Barrow was bombed in 1941.
The Barrow Blitz was probably the most sort of frightening moment that the Tate men had in relation to the possibility that if Barrow was being bombed, then, you know, this area was not quite as safe as they had perhaps hoped.
When the war ended, all was finally able to be revealed.
Newspapers picked up on it very quickly, particularly because Muncaster was the sort of furthest place from London where anything was stored. They had interviewed some of the people that had been here for 5 or 6 years, Londoners who suddenly found themselves in the middle of the countryside.
Was it all worth it, do you think?
It has to be worth it. Had any of the pictures remained in London, you know, the chances are they would have been very badly damaged. Muncaster Castle played a very significant part in the Second World War in a way that we all enjoy now, because we can go to the Tate collection and see the paintings which were for 6 years sitting in the crates in this very room.
Ian Haslam, BBC North West Tonight, Muncaster Castle.
Fascinating. A quick bit of sport for you. Sir Jim Radcliffe has told the BBC, as you may have seen, his preference would be to build a new stadium for Manchester United. In his first broadcast interview since becoming United's co-owner, the Failsworth-born billionaire said Old Trafford has become tired. The 71-year-old says a refurbishment to create an 80 or 90,000-seater stadium would never be perfect because of its age, and therefore a new ground, he says, could also be built.
You know, there is quite a big argument, in my view, for regenerating that whole south side of Manchester, and within it, you know, the nucleus of it being a new stadium, which would be a world-class, state-of-the-art stadium, which could take England games, it could take the FA Cup final, it could take the Champions League final.
It sounds like your preference, Sir Jim, is for a new stadium, if it can be achieved.
If it can be achieved, then yeah, that would clearly be my preference. I think I'd be very excited about that prospect for the north of England. I think it would be fantastic for the north of England.
Dan Rowan talking to Sir Jim Radcliffe. You can hear a full interview with Sir Jim on a podcast. It's available now on BBC Sounds. It's called The Devil's Advocate, the Manchester United podcast. No doubt about the story of the day, though. Richard and Debbie Nuttall. They had 2 lottery wins on the same day while they were on holiday. The first was just £2.60, just about enough, they reckoned, for a bacon butty. The second, a few hours later, was nearly £62 million. And today, the couple from Cone were celebrating their win with champagne rather than that bacon butty. And Jonas Muller was there.
There we go! Hooray!
There is a way to celebrate, even in the rain. But it was in the sun of Fuerteventura where Richard and Debbie Nuttall found out they were Euro Millions winners.
Great, big smiles, Debbie.
The couple were there on their 30th wedding anniversary and at first thought they'd won a prize with a few less zeros.
I saw a figure of £2.60. So I said to Debbie, we've won £2.60 on the lottery, and she said, hey, yeah, great.
Let me get this right, you thought you'd won £2.60?
Absolutely, absolutely. There was another email from the lottery saying you need to check your account, and when I opened the account up, it was there, you've won £61,708,231, and call this number.
I was half asleep, and Richard showed me the laptop, and I thought we'd won £61,000, and I was like, whoo! I was really happy with £61,000 until he started talking about millions, and then I sort of woke up properly then.
You thought it was a scam, and even when you rang the lottery people, you thought it was a scam.
I said to her, can you prove to me that you're not scamming me? And she went, no, I can't, no.
Debbie, it's no scam. You've already spent a bit of the money. Tell me what...
I bought some new bedding, and I bought a hairdryer, an expensive hairdryer.
And I've bought some golf clubs and a golf bag.
Apart from the bedding, it's not the most glamorous of first purchases, Richard?
No, but it's because you don't... When you actually do win the lottery, you're in such a daze because the numbers are so huge that you can't comprehend it, and you start thinking, well, I can't go out spending the money till I've got it.
They will support the charity BK's Heroes, which was set up in memory of their nephew Ben King, who died aged 27.
Every bit of money that is raised goes to research towards brain and kidney disease and to help families.
The couple from Colne in Lancashire are the first UK winners this year and the first to go public since 2022.
If we stayed private, which is the option, and we were helping friends and family, somewhere along the line the stories become unbelievable and somebody would find out, and then it would be a completely different story than it is today.
I know what you're going to say. It's not going to change you. Will it change you?
We will have nicer things and we will do nicer things, but we'll still be the same people. It'll still be us. We'll have our friends and family around us.
Of course, you don't need to work now, do you?
No.
No. No. Absolutely not.
Jonas Muller, BBC Northwest Tonight.
Well, many congratulations to Richard and Debbie. There's no need to say enjoy it because they will, but how nice that they're going to do something good with it as well in memory of their nephew. Right, let's have a look at the weather. Simon, how's it looking?
Well, it was very grim today, wasn't it? No amount of money can change that, unfortunately. Very wet weather moving its way through. This was the scene earlier on today in Liverpool. It was a very soggy start to Wednesday. And this is the rainfall radar image. You can see that rain pushing away to the east. So it did move away, so things improved. And actually, we saw some brighter skies. A bit of sunshine eventually developed. That was in Lancashire to end the day. And I think we'll see a bit more in the way of sunshine as well as we go through the next few days. Now, through tonight, there'll be some clear skies initially, but the next batch of heavy rain starts to move its way in during the early hours of Thursday. Look at it come in. Look at these greens here. Extremely heavy rain moving north and eastward. That may wake you up in the middle of the night as it moves eastward, with colder air spreading in as well. There could be a bit of winteriness over the higher ground, and overnight temperatures 5 to 7 degrees. But that band of rain will move through fairly quickly. It'll be followed by bands of showers, some sunny spells, though, in between those showers throughout Thursday, perhaps the driest of the weather in the Isle of Man. But it will feel colder on Thursday. You'll notice the drop in temperature. So during the afternoon, about 5 to 7 or 8 degrees Celsius. Temperatures have been around above the average for the time of year, so more typical for the time of year. You can see that colder air mass across the United Kingdom into Friday. But as I said, this is more typical, actually, for mid to end of February. Now, for Friday, again, there'll be further showers with some sunny spells in between. Again, some of those showers could be a little bit wintry over the tops of the Pennines. Otherwise, though, some decent sunny spells. Temperatures getting to about 6 to 8, maybe 9 Celsius there in Chester. As we go through into the weekend, we're going to see some fine weather on Saturday, but rain spreads in for Sunday.
Simon, you'll
Yes.
have seen this, I know. Have a look. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
And that's your forecast for now.
You'll remember, you saw it, didn't you, Friday night?
Yeah.
Causa inadvertently giving away her niece's 30th birthday party on the programme at the end of Friday's edition. It's on Jimmy Kimmel Live here on ABC, stateside in the United States.
It's Jimmy Kimmel Live tonight.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
2 million more viewers in the
Going
USA.
global. Yeah.
She is, really has. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Bye-bye.